We'd like to open it up for questions now. And because this is being videoed, we'd like to ask, if possible, anyone at this panel, and certainly anyone in the audience, the members of the UBC, are available to field your questions. Could we ask you to line up at the microphone so that we can capture this for the website recording?
Yes, I'm Brian Hauser from the Department of Physics, and I wanted to find out how well the percentage cuts across the colleges match up with the numbers of students, full-time equivalent students served by each college. Are those far off, or are they pretty much in line, or what? Since you got these numbers, the percentage cuts based on peer institutions and not off of specific data here at Eastern.
The question is for academic affairs, and it takes us back to the beginning process by which we established the instructional budgets under this new model. We compared by discipline, the average student credit loads of faculty at similar institutions, and that does take into account the number of students served. What it attempts to determine is what is the potential for faculty in a given department. So if this is the Department of Forestry, which we don't have, but assuming we did, if there are 10 faculty in the Department of Forestry, 10 tenure track faculty, and tenure track faculty in forestry across the country teach on the average a ratio of 1 to 20, then we would say, well, that's what the productivity should be if we set it at, and we tried different percentages based on what we thought we could afford. We wound up at 80%. That is, of our peers, our forestry faculty would be teaching more students than 80% of their peers. That's very high. It's a very high student faculty ratio. But that was a beginning point. Then we looked at the number of students that we have to teach, because in academic affairs, we're given an enrollment target to deal with. We have so many students to educate. And so then we look at the gap between what our tenure track faculty by discipline can provide and what is needed, and then we estimated how much part-time special faculty we would need, and then we figured out a budget formula for that. I want to say that this is not a perfect approach. We've worked on it. We've modified it. The chair of mathematics, I remember, certainly criticized some of our math, and it was good criticism, and we went back and worked on it. We have more work to do. And through this whole process, I have retained and will retain some central academic affairs instructional budget so that we can address issues where it hasn't worked properly. In the colleges such as the School of Social Work, for example, which have over the years invested disproportionately in part-time faculty, this model does not work as well for them, and we have to take that into account, and we have to move social work out of that disproportionate use of part-time faculty. So the centralized budget will help toward that regard. But it's a work in progress. I think it's a better way of budgeting than doing it by strictly history or by intuition or by just whoever has the best argument with the provost. But we have improvement ahead of us. Brian, you...
Well, I wanted to go and just follow up, because what I didn't hear was I didn't hear an answer to the question, and I heard an answer to something that perhaps you thought I asked, but the reason I asked a specific question was, if we have a reduction in a particular college that is greater than out of mismatch with the number of students served, and you cut down on, say, the part-time faculty, and then those students go somewhere else off of Eastern's campus, then you lose the potential students that we'd be serving here, and therefore you have worse financial circumstances. So that's why I wanted to see at least how the numbers that you did matched up with the actual students, because if you've got a college that's low enrollment at Eastern, but they're with their peers, and another one that's high enrollment at Eastern, but still lower than their peers, we're still cutting enrollment at places where we might not be able to afford it.
Well, I'm not positive. I still understand your question totally, and I'll be glad to sit down with you and try to understand it. I can say that when you're doing a peer-based, nationally normed approach here, there are not always equities. Remember, the English department spoke with me, and my discipline is English. And she pointed out that, well, your model doesn't do much for English, since English faculty everywhere in the United States carry disproportionately high loads. Well, I don't have an answer to that, except that, yes, that's true. And it's wrong. But it's also the way it is. And the fairest way I know to go about it currently, determining what an appropriate workload for English faculty is, to compare us to faculty at comparable institutions, not to compare our English faculty with our business faculty on this campus, or our English faculty with the physics faculty or any other faculty on this campus.
Good afternoon. Good to see you, Dr. Revelo. Good afternoon, everybody. I'm Terry McMullen with the faculty organization. I have two brief questions, if I may. The first question actually has to do with the first two bullets there. I'm sure many of my colleagues are concerned when we see phrases like reduced colleges, reduced departments, in part because other administrations at other places, and I have no sense that this is your intention whatsoever, but I know this has happened, that when departments are voided or blended in with other departments, administrators in the past have said, well, your tenure is with that department, so we don't have to honor your tenure commitment because your department is gone. Do we have your word that you will honor all tenure agreements even as you downsize departments and colleges? That's the first question.
You certainly have my word. And if I have any influence on this guy, he'll keep it.
I think you have a lot of influence on him, right? Dr. Mason?
It's especially interesting that, considering where your program is, that you would answer this question. I hope you can.
Absolutely. I'm a linguist here, only here.
Okay. No, we will honor our tenure obligations to faculty. This is about saving administrative costs. It's not about sacrificing faculty, reducing faculty, or any way affecting our instruction. This is a way of cutting down on administrative overhead.
Good. So we can look forward to lots of departments with big, long names.
I don't think we're going to see lots of large departments. We have only a few departments, I think, that will actually be moved under this. And we'll have discussions with faculty governance about that. We will save about, I don't know exactly yet, but between $400,000 and $500,000 in administrative costs in merging the two colleges, in reducing two colleges.
Thank you for that. My second question is very brief, bullets 3 and 4. Could you give us a little more, and my sense is that these are conversations that will be ongoing over next year, so you might not have a very precise answer to this, but could you flesh out a little bit for us what exactly you mean by downsize? Thank you.
Well, with the honors program, I do have an appointment set up to meet with Dana Elder, the director of the honors program, and we're going to be talking about this. I want to hear his proposals. We're just, frankly, we cannot afford the level of support for honors that we have, and yet we have to be certain that we serve our honors students. So the goal is to find a way to serve those students, to make it a special experience for them in coming to Eastern, but to put less money into the administration of that program. And with graduate studies, we simply have to find a way to be able to provide some of the same support services without as much administrative overhead. And we may be able to do this through better collaboration with other units on the campus. That's about as far as we've taken it right now, Terry.
Bill Young's History Department. Glad this microphone works as well as the other. There's the old phrase, the devil is in the details, and it seems like the details are going to be very important to the way this has worked out. And I'm glad Terry mentioned the honors program, also graduate studies. One of my favorite programs, and I think for many of us, is the Superb Teaching and Learning Center, and the way it's added value to what we do in many ways across the campus. And there's a lot of language, of course, about downsizing, and it's sort of vague at this point, which is understandable. I'd like to focus particularly on graduate studies, and it just seems to me that that's a good example of the devil and perhaps the angels in the details, that there's a question of procedure, who makes the decisions, what does it actually involve, and there's also the question of thinking about what the graduate studies programs do, and I'm thinking particularly of teaching assistants. One reason that we're able to reach as many students per faculty member as we do in some of the programs with graduate students is the very good work that they do with those programs. So my question is, in terms of something like downsize the graduate programs, it seems to make an argument could be made for upsizing them and putting even more graduate students out into at least the introductory classes. But more importantly, how are these questions going to be answered? Who is going to be at the table when we talk about the actual meaning of something like downsizing the graduate programs or tweaking the teaching and learning center and those kinds of devil in the details types of questions?
Well, this seems to be more academic affairs. Bill, it doesn't say downsize academic programs. It says downsize academic studies. At least that's what I meant for it to say. I'm talking about downsizing the administrative structure to support our graduate programs. This is not about having fewer graduate students at the university. In fact, I hope we will continue to grow our graduate programs as we have been, and that does entail providing the right mixture of assistantships. I should say, though, that it's not certain, given the tuition increase that we may receive, what portion of that would be set aside for tuition waivers. That's still a decision that the President will have to look at. So certainly we'll be able to provide some graduate assistantships with additional tuition waiver, but maybe at a lower rate than we have to date. I don't know yet. But definitely it means reducing the amount of administrative overhead that we currently dedicate to graduate studies. That's what that means. Now, in terms of process for both graduate studies, the Teaching and Learning Center, and others, it means talking to the people who are involved, also opening up the conversation for anybody who might be interested but who's not involved, and then finally, the President is going to make a decision about this budget. And with academic affairs, he's going to hear my recommendations. But I can guarantee you there'll be a lot of dialogue through phase 2.
Hi, I'm Al Scholes from the Biology Department. The question that I have is for Dr. Mason and Vice President Boas. You mentioned that you were going to merge the faculty hiring that's in academic affairs with business and finance. I wonder if you would each address how you envision that is going to affect faculty hiring and other activities that have been normally handled by the academic affairs.
Well, I can say, first of all, this isn't anything I really relish doing. In fact, I think the President remembers that shortly after I came here, I told him that I hoped before long that we would create an expanded Office of Academic Personnel to create what is often called at universities an Office of Faculty Affairs that would not just handle appointments and the like, but also provide support for faculty in lots of different ways, orientation, mentoring programs, and serve as a point for labor management relations. The position that would head such a unit would, in most schools, be a vice provost for faculty affairs. Well, that's what I'd like, and that's not what's going to happen. What's going to happen is the movement of our academic personnel staff, the remaining staff, following the resignation, retirement of our director, to human resources. I've worked in universities, public comprehensives, that had offices of faculty affairs, and in fact, that's what I was. I started in academic higher administration as a vice provost for faculty affairs. I've also been in comprehensives that have had all of the academic personnel functions in human resources. It can work well either way. What we're going to do is not my first choice, but it's a very workable choice. We will continue to provide strong support for search committees. We'll be certain to provide accountability on affirmative action for all of the visa issues and everything else related to academic personnel. We will provide all of the assistance for the tenure and promotion process. Nothing's going to change in terms of the services that we provide, but they definitely will be located elsewhere. And it means that the Provost's office will have to engage in very close communications with human resources. But with that, I'll turn it to Mary.
Well, I think John said it very well. What we're hoping, we've done a detailed functional analysis, step by step, of every process that takes place, and we're hoping that there won't be any glitches along the way. If they occur, we will have to deal with those. We'll address them, we'll fix them, and we'll move on. This is difficult for everybody, but I think it's very, very workable. I think that we have staff in place to do it, and I think we're very comfortable with the direction.
I can add, in fact, I wrote this in an email today responding to somebody with a concern about this particular topic, and I said, you know, if you gave me budget today so I wouldn't have to make this change, I probably would use that budget to go hire faculty. So it's not just right this moment about this particular amount of money, it's about priorities. Right now, our #1 priority in academic affairs has to be to support faculty as they provide instruction to students.
Hi, I'm Margaret Hetty from Modern Languages, and I wanted to ask about special faculty and at what point we might know whether their contracts are going to be renewed and under what form. At one point at what point may we be able to tell them that? And also for the elimination of special faculty, when that would be decided or when we would know which faculty would be affected by that and who would be making that decision at what levels.
To address the latter part, decision about who are offered contracts are made by the chairs and the deans, and then finally with the approval of first me and then the president. But those are primarily decisions made at the department and college level. I have a meeting, in fact, yet this afternoon with Human Resources to talk about timelines on notification. I did instruct the deans several months ago not to issue multi-year contracts to special faculty. That is, as far as I understand, permissive in the collective bargaining agreement, and given the uncertainties of the budget, and even at this moment, given the uncertainty about how deep round 2 is going to be. You saw the differences on the screen between what the Senate has proposed and what the House has proposed. If we get the House budget or anything like it, we are going to be in really severe budgetary stress. And my thinking all along has been, I would rather issue one-year contracts than to issue layoff notices. And I understand that this is not comfortable and that we have special faculty who have been here, senior faculty with multi-year contracts, and this cannot be a good experience for them or for their departments. We'll look at this if it's possible to find, once we know what the budget is, which we think will be in, we hope, late April, if there's a way to offer some multi-year contracts on some basis, the deans and I have already talked about this, we'll do that. It's not my goal to try to make people uncomfortable or insecure, but it is my goal to make sure that we're using our resources carefully and that we don't overextend and promise what we can't deliver. In terms of the timing on this, we'll talk to HR, but I think by early May we will know more precisely about notification.
Dave Bunting, Economics. First of all, many of us have not seen the study of workload activities for departments. Is that available by department?
Oh, absolutely, and we've taken this out to department meetings, but Dave, if you'll come over, or I will bring it to you, and we will share everything we have.
The second point is that we've seen the result of your budget decisions. We've seen no estimates of cash flows. So we don't know what your revenues are, and we don't know what your expenses are. Now, obviously, there's been many decisions about how the university is going to spend their money, and I think it's important that you indicate what particular activities money is going to be spent on. So we need an income statement here about where your money is coming from and where it's going.
Well, I'll start with that, and then maybe Dr. Arevalo will want to talk a little bit about where we spend it. Our only new revenue at this time is tuition revenue, and at a 7% increase at our current enrollment levels, that's net new income of about $2 million to the university. Our initial thinking on that is to reserve that, to not use that towards some of these reductions, because our initial thinking is that we will need to add that back into academic affairs to take care of teaching load issues and other issues around the academic planning. But I'll let Dr. Arevalo talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, what Mary's saying is exactly correct. If you look at a 10% increase is at about $2 million worth of revenue that we generate. If you look at the House 10%, you're generating a little under $3 million. So the shift between 7 and 10% is basically about $850,000. It's not a lot of money. If you take a look at the Senate budget that's looking at an $11 million cut, you throw $2 million of revenue into that, doesn't wash it out. Same thing with the House budget. You're looking at a 17 million plus a reduction in budget, and you're looking at basically at a 10% tuition, which is a little less than $3 million. Obviously not a wash. So in terms of looking at how we do the cuts, is to look at what we want to use the limited revenue that we've got. What I've spoken to the senior management of the university is that we have to look probably a first call at how we maintain enrollments and how we maintain teaching on the campus. We may have some other calls on those dollars because it's something that we don't know is coming down the pike in terms of capital reductions that we've seen. Some of those numbers Mary mentioned on the slides she originally had, but from our standpoint, as we don't include revenue in some of these numbers because it's so little compared to the cuts that we're taking.
But I want to add too, I do think Dave's got a very good point. Where you spend your money matters very much. And I have, in academic affairs, gone out, visited with faculty and staff in every college to talk about the college budgets and academic affairs budgets. we don't have a single penny in academic affairs that is secret. And if anybody wants more information about where money is going, that is, how much money in each college goes to travel, to staff by different categories, to equipment, it's available and we'll share it. Dave's exactly right. It's not just where you cut your budget, it's also where you spend your budget, and I hope we're spending it wisely, and it's certainly we're spending it openly.
The only other thing I would add is that our annual reports and our quarterly financial reports are all online. You can see audited financial statements, and you can drill down into colleges and see exactly where we're spending our money.
Just as a follow-up here, there's many ways to generate revenue. We have, you can defer depreciation, you can use reserves. There's other ways to do this. I'm not an accountant here. I have a little familiarity with this. We need to know if the university is taking all appropriate ways to generate revenues to reduce the effects of this proposed job cut. So we could have like deferred depreciation accounting, not put roofs on buildings, not buy cars, not replace computer equipment, and so on and so on. And we need to have evidence that these kinds of things are being considered. Other universities have done things like eliminate their athletic program, change other kinds of things. I don't have the details here for this, but we need to know that these kinds of things have been considered, and we need to know what the potential cost savings from these. So what we see right here is the consequence of your decisions. We have no factual support about how these decisions have been arrived at. And for this process to be credible, we need to be able to, everybody here needs to be able to look at the information and come to the same conclusions that you've done.
We have, on one hand, a concern and a commitment for openness, and on the other hand, a concern about people. And I'll just tell you, this has not been perfectly clear to me always where to find the right place. Certainly, your University Budget Committee, which has representatives from every constituent in this room, has looked at details. They also looked at a proposal that came from faculty governance on ways of increasing reliance on revenue, decreasing staff reductions, and so forth. Those proposals were discussed, and I would welcome anybody from the committee that wants to talk about this as well. We've not wanted to talk about individual people's jobs in settings like that or in settings like this. On the other hand, I agree. You know, you need to know how we're managing this. You mentioned equipment. Yes, I've instructed academic affairs to go on a 5-year computer replacement process. That's not something I particularly want to do. I don't think it's the wisest thing to do in the world of modern technology. But yes, I think it's essential so that we can save some money to put academic affairs budget into personnel and have fewer jobs lost. So we've talked about those kinds of things with the Budget Committee, and we're here to talk with you about them today. If there's something you don't know and want to know, we'll try to ask you, answer you. If you want to drill down into some of the details, we can, as long as we're not talking about individual people's jobs today.
The other thing that I would say, and this is something that we've talked to the University Budget Committee, is that as we look at divisional budgets or unit budgets, is really that we're also looking at where do we generate self-support dollars. Wherever possible, we're looking at can we in fact move people that are on state funding to self-support dollars. So we're looking at other areas of revenue. I mean, quite frankly, the majority of our revenue, quite frankly, comes from tuition or the state allocation. I mean, that's 90-something% of our budget. That's where it is. Do we have other sources of funding? Yes, we do, from our self-support areas that we have in the university. And each of the units is looking at, okay, is it possible for us to transition people into those areas? Because again, we're trying to save as many of people's jobs as we can, quite frankly.
My name is Debbie Marati. I think I hold the record. I'm a classified staff here. I've been here for almost 20 years. Please don't bump me. That's all I have to say. No, more than that, I didn't want to be on video because I can be quite a character most of the time. But what I have to say is the most uncomfortable thing for me has been to bump someone out of their job, and had to hang on to my own job to support my children, our children. My husband works here too, but he hasn't worked here as long as I have. But one of the most incredible experiences about this has been getting to know all the people I've gotten to know on this campus. There are a lot of wonderful people out here on this campus that work very hard, and faculty in the physics departments where I'm luckily at right now. I see them, especially Dr. Hauser and Dr. San, I see them in our tutor room helping students understand physics. And I mean, we may have low numbers, but how many people really, realistically understand physics? I really try. I took a class from Dr. Hauser in descriptive astronomy. That was the first time I worked in that department, and then they fired me. No, I got laid off, and I'm feeling quite vulnerable right now, but I know everyone is. And all I have to say is I appreciate the work that all of you do, and I appreciate every one of you for, and if I have to bump somebody, I'm really sorry. But all I have to say is, please don't make me feel bad about it, because it's not my fault. And accept me, and I'll do the best job I can. I am over 55 now, which I'm glad I didn't get a letter, but that kind of was a slap in the face. Does that mean you're over 55 and you're all washed up? No, it does not. Okay. Anyway, good luck, and God bless.
Well, can I add something then? As I said at the beginning of my comments, this budget is still in draft form, and so there is ample opportunity for more dialogue. I would ask everybody who has any opinions, thoughts, feelings about the academic affairs budget to feel free to call me, email me, make an appointment, meet with me, we'll go have coffee, let's talk about it. I've done budget cuts several times in my careers. I have never done one this big. So this is a new experience, and I welcome all the assistance and help I can get. And I'll piggyback on Debbie too. I too value what everybody in this room does. We're not dealing with, what's good or what isn't. We're dealing with what's crucial and what's less crucial, because everybody in this room does good work for this university.
Yeah. If there are any other, go ahead.
One more question on it.
Hi, my name is Kathy Green. I'm a secretary in the College of Business. And Dr. Mason just mentioned wanting all the help that's available. What I would like to ask the university to do is meet with our classified staff union. We've requested Well, actually, we sent a demand letter to Bargain that's been ignored up to this point. When you do a presentation and you tell us that you think 40 classified staff are being laid off, you really ought to let us have a chance to mitigate those layoffs. And we haven't seen the participation at this point from the university that we need to see. Thank you.
Thank you. I think our efforts in terms of the involvement of the University Budget Committee, the scrutinizing of some of the, or all of the budgets that have been submitted thus far, and the opportunity to continue to, as Dr. Mason mentioned, the opportunity to, if you want to email, have a personal discussion, I think that all of us are willing to do that. The efforts, I think, that all of you put forth in terms of making this institution the quality institution that it is very clear to me. I mean, even having been here 3 years, it's been very easy to see the pride and care that each and every one of you takes in terms of the institution and the students that we serve. So it's very difficult times for all of us, and the only thing that I can guarantee you is that we'll do the best we can with the resources the state is able to provide us. Again, thank you all for coming. If there are no other questions, we'll adjourn the meeting. Thank you.
I do have one more question, and I'm just wondering, we've talked a lot about academic affairs and stuff, but can we talk a little bit about student affairs and maybe IT, kind of where we're going there? I know you guys are here, so I'd like to hear a little bit about that as well.
Sure, and thank you, Keith. It's nice to have the opportunity to say a few things about student affairs. Well, just the same, I'd like to preface what we're doing in student affairs with the same kind of context that Dr. Mason set. When we decided the budget in student affairs, or at least the budget proposal, there were 3 areas that we kind of held as being our principles. The first was to protect recruitment, just as academic affairs is looking at protecting instruction. In student affairs, we thought that first and foremost we needed to protect recruitment. Second to that, we tried to protect those areas that directly affect recruitment and retention, such as financial aid, and to hold them relatively harmless. But after that, we looked at the whole array of student services, everything that goes on in student life, all the other things in enrollment services, such as advising, and if you can, and I don't like to use this, but in a sense triage, which of those become most critical for the students' success here at Eastern. Now with that said, in student affairs, and I know you have these budget materials in front of you, or at least can access them on the web, we did still propose laying off 3.8 classified positions. Out of that, 1 was already a vacancy, and an additional 5.1 administrative exempt. And out of that administrative exempt, half of that position was unfilled, if you will. Since then, we've had some other resignations in student affairs, which will make, at least for this governor's proposed cut, make our decisions easier. In that, another guiding principle is that whenever there's vacancies, we're trying to use those, as long as they're not critical, if you will, to the operation, use those vacancies rather than reducing a person that's already in the position. And that just gives you, and I know that's a really brief thumbnail sketch, but does give you an idea of how we're looking at it, student affairs. And one thing I want to say in student affairs, we're very fortunate in that there's a leadership team, there's 3 division heads, if you will, and myself, and everybody has been involved in proposing these decisions. So it isn't just me coming forward, it's our whole leadership team working together to come up at least with these proposals. And I would like to emphasize, if you have questions, to please let me know the questions you have about the budget. We do expect to have in student affairs another forum just for student affairs staff, so that again you can ask more questions. But this is an open process. process, and please talk to your division heads because we're doing this together. It's by consensus.
Thank you, Dorothy. Within IT, we're taking much the same approach as you've heard from the others. Majority of our focus has been on efficiency and effectiveness. We've been looking at maintenance agreements, licenses, looking for identifying things that are not considered business critical or business essential, looking at eliminating and reducing support for agreements for systems that are becoming older, looking at retiring systems that have gone past their age. You heard John mention the reduction of computer replacement. We are looking at the 4 to 5 year move for the faculty computer replacement. Bringing Blackboard back to campus, we've been hosting it off-site for quite some time, and we're looking at bringing that back to campus, which will provide significant reduction. Reduction of things like non-critical overtime. We will have to look at student workers as well within the IT unit. And we're looking at eliminating 4 FTE worth of positions. We are looking primarily at vacancies to help us in accomplishing that. So like Dorothy and the others, I would open the door for anybody to have direct conversations with them if they have any questions regarding specifics behind many of these things. Thank you.
Hi, everybody. My name is Kim Davis. I'm the Interim Director of Academic Personnel. And basically, what I wanted to just say is that, you know, these mergers are difficult for everyone, and we go willingly to human resources. But I do ask that it be a merger and not a takeover. I feel really confident that we have done a good job at this university and honed our skills and really learned the faculty needs and wants, and we've been there for our faculty. And so I think as we start to merge some of our units, it can go much more smoothly if the people who are being taken into another unit are treated with respect for their knowledge and treated as part of the process of the merger. I'm sure that we would have some good input on a good way to merge and a way that would have the least effect on the faculty. So I just ask that as we go through each of these strategies that the people who are affected have a say in how the merger takes place. And anyway, that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Any other questions? Thank you so much for being here this afternoon.
Okay, Mary. My faculty anyway, I just wanted to thank you guys for all the work you're doing. I mean, this is awesome.
President Revelo, I haven't had a chance to see how you do. How are you? I'm so happy you're back.
It's really awesome.